Kyouko.
What is up, my fellow viewers? This is Kyouko the Otaku, and welcome to another video. If you have seen my YouTube channel, you are probably aware that the first video I uploaded was my anime recommendations for the summer season of 2020. This time around, I've decided to start a new series where I'll be giving you my top 3 anime for each season of the year. So at the very end, we get to see a final showdown between the shows I've picked and give you my top 3 anime for the entire year. Bear in mind that I have not seen all of the shows that aired in every season, because as you may know, there are countless anime coming out, therefore I'll be taking into consideration only the ones that I've seen. Obviously, this series may contain spoilers for each anime I mention. I'll leave timestamps in the description as a way to prevent anyone being spoiled. If your favorite anime is not mentioned, well I'm sorry. It is obviously a personal list based upon my opinions. So, if you have a different opinion, please provide your list in the comments below. I'm interested to know what were your favorite anime for the season. This video is not an in-depth review of every single anime, otherwise it would take me days to go through all of them. But I'll summarize my thoughts for every anime I have seen and give you my top 3 at the very end. So, without further ado, let's get on to it. When it comes to the winter season of 2020 that started off in January of this year, I have only seen a handful of shows. But I have to say, there were all kinds of anime, from the complete trash all the way to the good shows. This season was inconsistent with the quality, to say the least. To start off the list, we have Haikyuu to the top. I have obviously seen the previous seasons of Haikyuu, and to be honest, I'm really enjoying the series. The animation is top notch and the art style is pretty unique and quite close to real life characters, because the show tries to emulate a real life story of a bunch of kids dreaming to become professional volleyball players and how they pave that path. Personally, I am not a big fan of sports anime in general. I mean, I've only seen Captain Tsubasa back when I was a kid, and Haikyuu is able to correct all of the inconsistencies Captain Tsubasa was unable to. In other words, in Haikyuu, despite the fact that the protagonists have a knack for the sport, the show tries to convey their struggles and also to expose a lot of their weaknesses and how much they still need to improve in order to progress. And this season's arc was all about that. The show reminds us the long way they have in order to reach the level of certain characters that are also introduced in the first half of the season. In these first 12 episodes, we witness a build-up for the second half of the season, where they'll face off against these strong opponents when the volleyball nationals begin. The second half of the season is scheduled to air in the fall of 2020, as of the recording of this video. So yeah, pretty good anime in general, not as good as previous seasons in my opinion, because there was not much going on, but still, no complaints about it. Next up on the list we have Darwin's Game. I have so many mixed feelings about this anime, because when I first saw the teaser, I was really excited about it. I always like survival anime that have a deep story and great characters, and it looked really promising, until, well, I started watching it of course, and how disappointed it became the more I watched. Overall, we have a pretty decent concept, people getting sucked into a survival mobile game where the possibility of killing people in exchange for progress and survivability becomes reality. The big letdown for me though was the way the different characters were introduced and how their connection with the main character was conceived. Plus the bullshit shenanigans that Kaname, the main protagonist, pulls off in order to beat his opponents was even more annoying. To put into perspective, we're talking about a total noob compared to other characters that he faces up against, and yet he's able to beat them somehow because of his special ability, like Shuka, which is one of the best players in the game. Even though the special ability has given him a pretty decent advantage compared to other players, it does still show a lack of ability. Somehow he's able to pull impossible wins and recruit these skilled and experienced players that see him as the example and big player in the game. This thing goes on until he's able to beat the main villain of the season. Nevertheless, I do have to give some points for the way the anime shows how the main character matures and progresses as a player. The fighting scenes were nicely animated as well. Even though I believe that the story felt really rushed, the show does focus a lot more on the battles and the surviving games compared to the characters thought process, and how they have to adapt mentally to every situation. Personally, I find it more interesting to see how the main character reacts every single time he's on the verge of death. But hey, I believe this anime is pretty decent still. I believe the studio behind it is planning to continue the show for a second season, considering the way it ended. But even so, most of the time, many anime shows are left in the dust because they exist mainly to promote the reading materials. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Next we have Kyouko Suiri. I did start watching it. I've seen the first 3 episodes and I dropped it. Don't get me wrong, I really liked the premise. But the anime felt too much on details in my opinion, especially the story about the woman that supposedly thrown a dead body into the lake. I almost fell asleep with the story loop around it and it was too annoying for me. I'm not saying the anime is bad, okay? It's simply not made for me, but who knows, I might get back to it and give it another go. Next we have... wait, I can do this. Itai no wa ie nano de bogyo-ryoku Kyokufuri Shitai to Omoimasu. Jesus Christ, with all these huge ass anime titles. For the sake of reference, let's simply call it Itai no wa. Now, this anime is another one that I really didn't enjoy at all. When it comes to Isekai that tries to create a story in a MMO world, they either nail it or it totally sucks. And in this case, it really fell to the latter. Let's start with the pros. Good animation, great design, vibrant colors. The anime explored many of the MMO concepts that I personally enjoyed, the world itself and its mechanics. The cons, characters, story, bullshit main character that has plot armor bigger than Goku's, and the story didn't have a purpose whatsoever. It was a pain to watch this anime. I don't know how I even finished, to be honest. Maybe I was watching for a decent intrigue and a proper ending. But nope, it felt like this anime was an attempt at creating a satire show to ridicule the Isekai genre, but I think it failed miserably. I mean, if anyone wants to watch such anime, just go watch Konosuba. That one, on the other hand, is a masterpiece. But in all seriousness, I understand why many people enjoyed it. It was goofy and meant to be funny, but it became weird with no intrigue and didn't make sense, hence the reason I disliked it. Oh, and there's a second season on the way, so for those of you who are hyped, well, good for you. God fucking damn it. Next we have Plunderer. God, another disappointment. I think I should call the winter season the disappointment season of 2020. Like Darwin's game, I was expecting good things out of this anime. The concept was pretty solid and the teaser was really amazing. The anime starts off in a land called Alcia, where people are governed by the count concept, a number related to every person's life that increases every time you fulfill your duty. This number engraved on each person determines their social status, and if it reaches 0, the person is sent to the abyss. Well, they basically die. Unlike Darwin's game, this show was a 24 episode format, and I have to be harsh on it because I believe they had enough margin of maneuver to create something solid and great, but they didn't. I mean, we have a lot of comedy scenes, which was a positive side note. The story itself was pretty solid, with the whole shebang of going back in time. One of the main characters became the legendary ace and whatnot. But after 10 episodes, we end up in a scene where Hina is asking Leash to grab her boob, just so he remembers her in 300 years, and be like, hey, you like boobs, I know you are a perv, don't go berserk and kill everyone, okay? Remember my boob for the sake of reference. I mean, what the fuck was that? Of course I'm exaggerating a little bit, since there was more to it than simply communicate with past Leashed. They went back in time to understand more about the origins of the numbers, the reason behind certain abnormalities like choppers appearing out of nowhere, or Sonohara using modern weaponry in a world that didn't know about such technologies. Nevertheless, the downfall of this anime started in the final episodes, where the story becomes really underwhelming, especially the fight between Leashed and Doan, with really bad drawing and poor animation. I was expecting a fight between Schumerman and Leashed and a decent ending, but not this. Besides of what we have seen in the show, I think there are a lot of mysteries and a lot of ideas that could have been explored a lot more, like the people that is governing the world. How was the Abyss created? I think despite having a good concept, it was poorly executed. I've never read a manga, so I can't compare it to the anime, but the show itself was bad overall, from the characters being inconsistent with their thoughts, to the intention of sexualizing a lot of scenes with numbers stuck on intimate parts of female characters just to provide a bit of fan service. To the weird harem brigade fighting for Leashed, it did seem that the people behind this anime did leave an open ending with the main villain still being around. So we can expect some continuation in the future? Or will it be another anime left behind just to promote the manga? Who knows? Last on the list we have Isekai Quartet, the second season. There's not much to say about it besides the fact that it is an amazing idea to assemble the best Isekai characters out there and make a comedy anime about it. Like the first season, this one didn't disappoint. There's a lot of funny scenes. It is really interesting to understand how the characters get to know each other, referring their own worlds and sharing ideas, especially how connected they become for the common purpose, to understand why they were sent to a school in the first place. This season, we are introduced to the main characters from the anime Tate no Yusha no Nariagari, another anime I personally enjoyed, with Raftalia, Naofumi, and of course the adorable Philo. These characters were slowly introduced into the brigade and they had to fight together against the giant spider robot, ending on a good note with a teaser for the third season, which I'm really hyped for. Very good anime in my opinion. I know it isn't really fair to pick up great characters from other shows and create a good anime, but still, I have to give credit to where credit is due. Other anime like Infinite Endergam, Magia Record, Mahou Shoujo Madoka, Magica Gaiden were dropped because the story was too boring for me. On a side note, since I was still watching other anime that aired in the past, I wasn't too focused on the new ones that were coming out. Therefore, I didn't watch too many anime in this season. But from what I've heard, some anime like Jibaku Shonen Hanako-kun, Dorohedoro, and ID Invaded were some pretty good gems I missed. But hey, I'm simply gonna judge based upon what I've seen, but I'll probably come back to watch those anime in the future. So yeah, my top 3 anime for the winter season of 2020 will be Haikyuu to the top, Isekai Quartet the second season, and Darwin's Game. Next video on the series will be covering the spring season of 2020, where I did watch more anime than the winter season, so we'll be covering more shows for sure. Thank you so much for watching today's video, I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to watch your daily dose of anime because it's good for your brain and heart. Take care, and I'll see y'all in the next video.